My name is Rachel Morgan, and I'm 32 years old. As I sit here in the corner of my bedroom in Willowdale, I can't help but reflect on how quickly life can shift from peaceful to unrecognizable. Outside my window, the sun is beginning to set, its light spilling softly over the treetops, turning everything gold for a brief moment. But inside me, the light feels far away. There's a weight sitting on my chest that no amount of fresh air or sunshine can lift. It's the weight of memory, of love, grief, and betrayal that wrapped itself around my life so tightly, I nearly lost myself inside it. The house I'm sitting in isn't just a house, it's a dream Ethan and I fought for. A $1 million home, tucked into a quiet neighborhood, built not just with bricks and paint but with our sweat, our laughter, and our sacrifices. We didn't come from wealth. Every corner of this house was earned, through skipped date nights, late work hours, and long conversations over spreadsheets and savings apps. This was our someday.
And we made it our today. Ethan.
Even saying his name now feels like brushing against a bruise that hasn't quite healed. We met in the most ordinary way, waiting in line at a coffee shop downtown. I was coming from a client presentation, arms full of mood boards and design samples, looking completely scattered. He was behind me with a calm smile and kind eyes, holding nothing but his wallet and a soft laugh.
We ordered the same drink.
He joked about fate. I laughed, even though I didn't know him. That moment should have passed like any other. But it didn't. That moment was the start of everything. From casual meetups to deep 2 a.m. conversations, our relationship unfolded gently. He was the kind of man who always asked if I'd eaten, who remembered the little things, who never made a scene but always made me feel safe. Ethan didn't just listen, he understood. And in a world that rarely did, that meant everything to me. But not to my parents. My mother, Linda, thought he wasn't refined enough. She said I deserved someone with more polish, more status. My father, Richard, didn't trust him. Said he was too average, like love needed a resume. When I told them I was going to marry Ethan, they acted like I had lost my mind. They tried everything to stop it, guilt trips, emotional manipulation, even silence. But I was done seeking their approval. I chose love instead. Ethan and I had a quiet wedding in a park near the lake. Just a few close friends, a modest cake, and me in a powder blue dress that swayed in the wind. His hands trembled as he slid the ring onto my finger, and I remember how he whispered, "This is the beginning of forever." And I believed him. I still do. A year later, I found out I was pregnant. I'll never forget the look on his face when I told him. He stared at me for a second, and then his whole expression lit up. He picked me up right there in the kitchen, laughing through tears. We stayed up that night dreaming about our baby. We didn't know if it was a boy or girl, but we agreed if it was a boy, his name would be Noah. I could already imagine him running through our backyard, climbing the trees Ethan said he'd build a swing on. For days after we saw Noah's heartbeat flutter on the ultrasound, Ethan left to grab groceries. I remember standing barefoot at the door, smiling as I reminded him to bring the vanilla ice cream I was craving. He winked, blew me a kiss, and walked out. That was the last time I saw him. 30 minutes later, the phone rang. A voice too calm for what it was saying told me everything in clipped, clinical words. Accident. Instant. We're so sorry. My knees buckled. I collapsed on the floor, arms wrapped protectively around my stomach, as if I could shield Noah from the grief that shattered my world. The funeral came and went in a haze. I don't remember the flowers, the people, or the speeches. I only remember the silence afterward. I remember that my parents, who had always doubted Ethan, didn't offer comfort. Not a hug, not a word of support, not even a ride home. They acted like nothing had changed, like my life hadn't just imploded. And the next day, they began to show up. Linda walked in like she owned the place. Richard followed, making comments like, "This house is far too big for one person, and your brother Tyler might need the space soon." At first, I thought they were just being inconsiderate. But something felt wrong. Off. They didn't come to support me. They came to make themselves comfortable. And I realized they didn't see me grieving. They saw an opportunity. I remember sitting alone in the nursery Ethan and I had just started preparing. soft blue walls, the faint smell of fresh paint. I was holding a pair of tiny baby socks in my hands, ones Ethan had picked out because he said they looked adventurous. I could still hear his voice in my mind, talking about Noah's first steps. My parents didn't see this room as sacred. They saw it as square footage. And in that moment, with my heart in pieces and my baby still growing inside me, I whispered a promise out loud. Noah, I will protect you, even if it's from the people who should have loved us the most. A month had passed since Ethan's funeral, and I still moved through the days like I was underwater. Nothing felt real. The house was quiet.
Too quiet.
Every corner still carried his presence. His shirts in the closet, his shaving cream by the sink, his handwriting on the wall calendar reminding me of our ultrasound date. But I had one reason to keep going. One small heartbeat growing stronger every day.
Noah.
I was in my 8th month of pregnancy, and for the first time in a long time, I wanted to feel some joy. So I decided to plan a small baby shower. Nothing grand, just a few friends, some cake, soft decorations. A way to remind myself that life still had meaning, that Ethan's love had left something beautiful behind. That Saturday morning I woke up early. The house smelled like fresh roses and vanilla. I had baked a cake myself. White frosting with golden pearls. Pink and blue paper flowers lined the walls. My back hurt. My legs were tired. But I didn't care. Every folded napkin, every small touch was for Noah. And for me. By 2:15 the doorbell rang. Emily from my prenatal class was the first to arrive. She held a gift wrapped in pastel paper and smiled as she hugged me gently. You look amazing, she said, and your house looks like something out of a magazine. Thanks, I said with a small laugh. It kept my mind busy. Soon more guests arrived. Zoe, my business partner, brought homemade cupcakes. Sarah from next door brought balloons. Laughter filled the living room. For the first time in weeks, I felt like a person again. Not just the widow. Not just the pregnant girl trying to survive. I was a host. A friend. A mother waiting to meet her son. We were just about to cut the cake when the front door flew open. My heart jumped. The room went quiet. And there they were. Linda and Richard. My parents. They walked in like they were hosting the party. My father held a cardboard box. My mother wore heels too high and a smile too fake. Sorry we're late, Rachel, she said. Traffic was awful, but we have exciting news. I forced a polite smile. I pointed to the cake. We were just about to start. Richard raised his voice over everyone. Before that, we have a special announcement. Everyone went silent. My friends looked confused. I stood there gripping the back of a chair. And then my younger brother Tyler walked in holding a letter above his head like it was a trophy. I got in, he shouted, Princeton. My mother gasped and started crying. Not a single tear at Ethan's funeral. But here she was sobbing in front of cupcakes and balloons over a college letter. My brilliant boy, she said, hugging him. I always knew you could do it. Behind him, a group of Tyler's friends barged in.
Loud.
Dressed in orange and black. Carrying banners. Taking selfies. One of them knocked over the table holding the gifts. No one apologized. The handmade sign I had put above the couch that read Welcome Baby Noah was torn down. In its place, one of Tyler's friends taped up a piece of paper that said Princeton bound. No one noticed the cake. No one saw the baby gifts. It wasn't a baby shower anymore. It was a college celebration for my brother. I stepped away quietly and walked to the kitchen. My hands trembled as I poured a glass of water. I tried to steady my breathing, but the noise from the living room only grew louder. Brandon's voice filled the space as he told a story about how he nearly didn't get in but always believed he was meant for Ivy League. His friends clapped. My friends looked around awkwardly. I could feel my face burning. Someone bumped into the cake table. The edge of the cake collapsed. Frosting smeared onto the floor. I walked over and knelt to clean it up. 8 months pregnant, on my knees, wiping, icing while no one noticed. It's just cake, my mother called out from the sofa. Just cake. Just things.
Just a baby.
I stood up slowly, my hand pressing against my lower back. My heart was heavier than my body. I walked down the hall, into the nursery. The one Ethan and I had painted in soft blue. I closed the door behind me. I sat in the rocking chair he built. I held a tiny blanket against my chest. And I whispered, "They don't see you, Noah. But I do.
I see you.
And I will not let them take this from us. Not again." Outside, the laughter continued. But inside that room there was only love. And a promise. That night the house was quiet again. The streamers still hung limp over the doorway. The frosting on the carpet had dried. The trash can overflowed with crumpled gift wrap and a torn banner. But I couldn't sleep. My body ached, but my heart ached more. And in that silence I felt something shift inside me. It wasn't sadness anymore. It was something sharper. Something clearer. Anger. After everyone had left and Tyler's friends had finally cleared out, I sat at the dining table trying to calm myself. I reached for a glass of water, and that's when I saw it. A thick cream-colored envelope sticking out from under a pile of magazines. I didn't remember seeing it earlier. Curious, I opened it. Inside were printed receipts and a small brochure from a college prep agency. I frowned and looked closer. College application consulting $4,000. Private SAT tutor nearly $3,000. Essay editing almost $2,000. At the bottom of each one was a payment method. My business account. I froze. For a few seconds, I just stared at the papers. Then I got up and walked to the office. I pulled open the drawer where I kept my older financial files and began spreading them across the desk. What I saw next made my skin go cold. There were withdrawals I never authorized, charges at stores I had never visited, payments to services I had never heard of. I looked at the signatures. They weren't mine, but one name repeated over and over. Linda. My mother had been using my business account, quietly, without asking, and it had been happening for months. I found one large payment listed during the same week Ethan died. $3,000 to something called College Edge Solutions. They didn't just crash my baby shower. They had been draining my life's work behind my back. I remembered a jar I kept in the back of the drawer. It had old receipts from years ago. One of them was my first rent payment from when I started my design business. I pulled it out, and beneath it were more files. More proof. Invoices for tutoring. Fees for test registration. Software purchases. All under my name. I had worked day and night to build my business. Craft by craft. Sale by sale. They called it a little side hobby, but they had no problem using it when they needed money. My phone buzzed. It was Emily. "Are you okay after today?" I didn't reply. Another message came in. "Dr. Kim, your doctor. We need to talk about your blood pressure. Can you come in this week?" Then one more. "Victoria, family attorney. I heard about your situation. Let me know if you need legal help. You're not alone." I stared at those words. You're not alone. But that wasn't how I felt. Not in that house. Not with people who didn't see me as family. Only as a bank. A burden. An obstacle. Just then the floor creaked. I turned and saw her. Linda standing in the hallway, arms folded, pretending to smile. "Brandon's friends will need a place to stay this summer," she said like it was a normal request. Behind her, Richard leaned on the wall like a tired landlord. "We'll need the nursery for storage, just Brandon's boxes, you understand."
No.
I didn't understand. That nursery was the only piece of Ethan I had left. This wasn't their house. It was mine, built with Ethan's hands and my dreams. I opened my laptop. My hands were still shaking, but I knew what I had to do. I typed slowly, carefully, and downloaded a template. Eviction notice. Not for renters, but for invaders. I printed 3 copies and placed them in my bag. Then I stood up and whispered to my son, "This isn't just for me, Noah. It's for you. And they won't win." The next morning I woke up early. The house was quiet in that strange way it gets right before something goes wrong. I slipped out of bed and walked to the kitchen. The documents were still in my bag. 3 pages with a title in bold. Termination of residency. My hands brushed over the paper like it was made of glass. I didn't eat breakfast. I couldn't. I just stood by the sink staring at the coffee mug someone had left out. It wasn't mine. It was Richard's. A Princeton hoodie was tossed over one of my dining chairs. Tyler's. And 3 pairs of muddy shoes were lined up against the wall. None of it was mine. I heard laughter coming from the living room and followed the sound. Tyler and 2 of his friends were sprawled out on the couch eating cereal from the dishes Ethan and I had gotten as a wedding gift.
They didn't look at me.
Didn't greet me. Just kept watching some video and laughing. Tyler glanced at me finally. We're thinking of setting up the gaming system in the nursery. Better sound in there. The nursery. That room was sacred. Ethan had painted the walls with care. We had chosen the colors together. The mobile that hung above the crib was handmade. I had stitched the curtains myself. It wasn't just a room. It was our memory. Our future. Our son's first base.
You can't use the nursery, I said softly.
Tyler shrugged. Dad said it was fine. Before I could respond, Linda entered the room with a clipboard and a set of keys in her hand. We've made some adjustments to the house schedule, she said with a cheerful voice that felt like poison. Brandon needs structure and quiet while he prepares for school. It's best if you take a little break. Maybe stay with a friend. You've been very emotional. Richard followed behind her and nodded like everything she said was reasonable. We're just trying to keep things peaceful. My mouth went dry. I live here. This is my home. Linda's smile faded. She looked at me like I was a stubborn child. It was Ethan's home. Don't forget we helped you during the down payment. No, you didn't. Ethan and I paid for everything. You never gave a single dollar. Don't raise your voice, Rachel. She said your behavior is unstable. I'm pregnant. Not unstable. Richard stepped forward. That's enough. You've been moody and distant for months. You barely work anymore. You're not helping anyone. Then he grabbed my arm. It wasn't a strong pull, but it was enough to make me stumble back. My baby shifted inside me. I gasped and looked at him with wide eyes. Let go of me, I said, but he didn't. Linda walked over to the kitchen counter and grabbed my purse. She reached inside and pulled out the documents I had printed. What's this? She asked. She read the first page, and her face changed. Eviction? Really? She laughed and then tore it in half. The pieces fell to the floor like fallen leaves. Then Richard did something I'll never forget. He shoved me toward the front door. My feet slid back. I caught myself on the wall. My belly ached. My eyes burned. You're making this ugly, he said. We gave you every chance to be part of this family. Then he opened the door. I stood there frozen. No shoes. No jacket. Just my robe and a purse. My fingers curled around my house keys. You're throwing me out, I asked quietly. You've been asking for it, Linda said. And just like that, they pushed me out. I walked slowly down the steps. The air was cool. The morning sun was rising. Birds chirped like nothing had happened. I got into my car, locked the door, and placed both hands on my belly. Noah moved, like he knew something had changed. They pushed us out, I whispered, but they have no idea what's coming next. By sunrise, I was already dressed and sitting in the small waiting room of a law office downtown. My friend Emily had connected me to an attorney named Victoria Hayes. Her firm specialized in property disputes and financial abuse inside families. The room smelled like fresh paper and strong coffee. I held my bag tightly in my lap, like it was the last piece of safety I had left. Victoria came out to meet me. She had calm eyes and a voice that didn't rush. She led me to her office and invited me to sit down. You said you and your husband bought the house together, she asked. Yes, I answered, 3 years ago. Every payment came from our income. No co-signers. The deed is in both our names. Do you have a copy of the deed? I pulled it from my bag and placed it on the desk. She looked it over carefully and nodded. That's good. Very good. I told her everything. I didn't hold anything back. I explained how Linda and Richard never supported Ethan. How they barely showed up at the funeral. How they slowly began entering my home. How they moved in, took over the nursery, and finally threw me out. 8 months pregnant, with nowhere to go. Victoria took notes as I spoke. She never interrupted, only asked clear, short questions when needed. Do you have any records of financial misuse? I opened the envelope of receipts and statements. I had circled every charge that didn't belong. I showed her the bank withdrawals, the signed authorizations that weren't mine, the payments made to prep schools, college coaches, tutoring apps. Her expression didn't change much, but her voice grew firmer. Rachel, this isn't just emotional abuse. This is financial fraud, unauthorized account use, and wrongful eviction. And you've got a paper trail for every part of it. I swallowed hard. I want them out of my life. Legally. Permanently. You'll have it, she said. We're filing for full property control, a civil suit for stolen funds, a restraining order for personal safety, and an official eviction notice through court. She leaned forward, but listened to me carefully. Don't go back to the house alone. Change your business passwords. Lock down every email and account. And let your doctor document any stress-related symptoms. We'll need it in court. He already started. I said my blood pressure has been high for weeks. Good. The court listens to documents. And, Rachel, you've got plenty. That night, I returned to Emily's guest room and opened my laptop. I changed every password, added two-step verification, downloaded backup copies of my business files. Then I created a folder on my desktop. Legal case, Linda, Richard, Tyler. I filled it with screenshots of unauthorized logins, voicemails where Tyler called me useless, photos of the nursery before and after they moved in, emails from Zoe confirming suspicious access to our client database, doctor reports showing stress levels and blood pressure, and one photo that mattered most. Ethan and I in the nursery, both of us covered in blue paint, smiling at the camera, his hand on my belly. This is for us, I whispered to the screen, for you and for Noah. 2 days later, Victoria filed the case in court. Claim 1, wrongful eviction. Claim 2, misuse of business funds. Claim 3, identity abuse. Claim 4, emotional harm during pregnancy. Claim 5, property invasion. Each claim backed by hard evidence. We requested full property control, financial compensation, restraining orders, and legal removal from the home. That evening, my phone buzzed. Zoe messaged. They tried logging into the account again. I locked it. Do you want me to speak in court? Emily texted. You're stronger than you think. You're not alone in this. Dr. Kim sent a final note. I'll support you with medical documentation anytime you need. I read those messages twice. They thought they could break me. They didn't know they had set me free. You tried to steal my house, my business, and my motherhood, I whispered. But now I'm taking everything back. The courthouse felt colder than I expected. Not because of the air, but because of the silence. The kind that fills every corner and makes your thoughts louder. I stood outside the glass doors in a simple blue dress, my belly round and firm, my shoes flat and soft. I took a deep breath and stepped inside. Victoria met me at the front. She was calm and confident just like before. She placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. You're ready, she said, and we have everything we need. Inside the courtroom, I sat at the plaintiff's table. Across from me were Linda, Richard, and Tyler. All three dressed like they were going to a church service. Pale colors, folded hands, fake worry on their faces. Judge Harris entered, a middle-aged woman with sharp eyes and no time for games. She nodded for us to begin. Victoria started with the house deed. She showed the judge that Ethan and I were the only legal owners. Then she presented the bank records, the receipts, and the comparison of signatures. She explained how my family had accessed my business accounts and spent thousands without my knowledge. Then came the video footage, a recording from a small security camera in my office. On the screen, Linda was seen opening my drawers at night. Richard whispered account numbers. Tyler walked past laughing. They had no idea I had a hidden camera. The judge watched without speaking. When the video ended, Victoria handed over printed emails from Zoe and a medical report from Dr. Kim confirming pregnancy complications due to emotional distress. Then came the witness letters. Emily had written a full account of how I was pushed out. Zoe confirmed they had tried to contact clients using my email. Dr. Kim's statement was notarized and direct. Rachel Morgan experienced unsafe emotional and financial pressure from her immediate family during her third trimester. She was advised to avoid all stress-related contact. Judge Harris looked at the other side. Linda spoke first. "My daughter has always been dramatic. She said we just wanted to help her raise the baby." Richard added, "She became distant after Ethan died. We didn't know how to reach her. Then Tyler made the mistake. I didn't know it was her money. He blurted out Dad said it was fine." The courtroom fell silent. Judge Harris turned her gaze to him. "So you admit the account was not yours? And that you spent from it anyway?" Tyler looked down, said nothing. Victoria stood once more. "Your Honor, we are asking for legal removal from the home, restitution for damages, and full protective control of the property and business." Judge Harris took a moment, then spoke clearly. "The court grants full ownership of the property to Rachel Morgan. All 3 defendants are ordered to vacate the property immediately. A no-contact order is issued for Linda, Richard, and Tyler Morgan. The court awards $42,500 in restitution to the plaintiff. Mandatory financial counseling is assigned to all defendants. Violation of these terms will result in criminal charges." I didn't cry. I didn't even smile. I just breathed. 12 weeks of pressure lifted in a single moment. My chest felt lighter, my head clearer. I stood tall and walked out of that courtroom not as a victim, but as someone who had taken her life back. Back at Emily's house, I stood in front of the mirror. I placed both hands on my belly. "We did it, Noah," I whispered. "Mommy kept her promise." The next morning I drove back to my house. It was the first time I'd seen it since being pushed out. My hands trembled as I parked the car and stepped out. The front lawn looked the same. The mailbox still had our name on it. But something in the air felt different. This time I wasn't just visiting. I was returning. I unlocked the door slowly and stepped inside. The scent of lavender filled the air. I had always used lavender detergent. Ethan loved how it made the sheets smell like summer. The rooms were quiet but no longer hollow. They were mine again. Every wall, every shelf, every floorboard. Gone were the muddy shoes, the loud voices, the broken banners and tension. The house had been cleaned. Zoe had arranged for a service to come through. Emily had left groceries in the fridge. Even Dr. Kim had dropped off a bouquet of white daisies with a small card that said, "Welcome home, Rachel and baby Noah." I walked through each room slowly. The kitchen, the hallway, then finally the nursery. The mobile above the crib still spun gently from the open window. The crib was freshly made. And hanging above, it was a single photo. Ethan holding a paintbrush, his cheeks smudged with blue. His smile wide and full of dreams. I sat in the rocking chair he built. My hands rested on my belly. Noah kicked once strong and sure. "I'm home, baby," I whispered, "and no one is taking this from us again." That night, I slept better than I had in months. The sound of silence was peaceful, not painful. I felt safe. But at sunrise I woke with a jolt. A tight ache ran across my lower back. Then another wave. Deeper this time. Stronger. It was time. I grabbed my hospital bag and called Emily. Within minutes she arrived and helped me into the car. The contractions came faster now. But I was ready. I had waited for this moment. Worked for it. Fought for it. At the hospital, under soft lights and warm voices, the nurses moved quickly but gently. Dr. Kim held my hand. Emily stood beside me, whispering, "You've got this," over and over. Hours passed in waves of pain and strength. I closed my eyes and saw Ethan's face. His smile. His promise. Then I heard it. The cry. Loud and fierce. "He's here," the nurse said, smiling. They laid him on my chest. Red-faced, tiny hands waving, his voice louder than anything I'd ever heard. I looked into his eyes and felt every part of me return. Every broken piece come together. "Welcome home, Noah," I whispered. "We made it." 3 days later, I brought him home. The nursery was filled with soft blankets, baby lotion, and sunlight. Noah slept peacefully in the crib, wrapped in the same blue blanket Ethan had picked out months ago. Zoe came by with cupcakes. Emily brought a balloon. Dr. Kim visited just to check in as a friend. We didn't have a party. We didn't need one. It was quiet and kind. Exactly what we needed. Later that night, I held Noah in my arms and whispered, "This house is yours now, and no one will ever use you or hurt you the way they tried to hurt me." If this story touched your heart, don't forget to leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us bring more powerful stories like this to life. Thank you for watching.